Hey guys, I'm Jackie Brubaker, host of the Love You Even More podcast. I'm an author, marriage and family therapist in training, performer, and 2-time Emmy Award winner. Each week, I bring on people from all walks of life to talk to them about their inspiring stories in the fields of self-development, relationships, business, and how you can love yourself even more. For more about me and the podcast, visit us at loveyouevenmore.com. Hey guys, welcome to the Love You Even More podcast. I am your host, Jackie Brubaker. This week, we are going to talk about reframing our stories. Well, we've all got a lot of stories, and it feels like sometimes our whole lives and personalities are just made up of the stories that we have created our lives with, and the stories we tell ourselves about what's real, what's not real, what happened, did not happen, and who people are around us. And it can be very powerful to have stories that mean a lot to you that you've really worked on. That can also be very powerful to let go of stories that no longer serve a purpose. Maybe they were a story that we had to tell ourselves to help cope with severe trauma, losses of people we loved. It is really easy to get wrapped up in a survival story if we have survived something. And it can really overtake our identity. And we don't want to live by a story that maybe no longer is happening in our lives. It's nice to share at times, but we can't live by it. So sometimes it's important to go back and be like, what are the stories that I tell myself? And what are the stories that I tell others? So there is a difference. The stories we tell ourselves are typically about our self-worth, who we are, who we think we are, who we want to believe that we are, and who we also really think we are in a negative way. In a lot of ways, and a lot of times in therapy, we're dealing with the negative stories we tell ourselves, that we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not thin enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not rich enough, we're not successful enough, whatever, you get it. The list goes on and on and on. And it's difficult because who is this person telling the story to ourselves? It's our voice in our head telling us the story that makes us feel like shit. So first of all, let's talk about the voice. Okay. The voice is just years of conditioning. It's years of conditioning. We've heard this voice from parents, loved ones, friends, coaches, whoever. It's just people that have said something that felt true or that did not feel true, but then we wondered, is that true? I had a story that someone said to me, and I can guarantee that this person never ever thought it would stay stuck in my head. But the story was, you have to do one thing and do one thing really well to be successful in this life. And I do a lot of things. Now, mind you, I have been narrowing them down, and now I only do a few things. But they are things I do legitimately well and that I spend a lot of time honing my craft in, which is being a therapist, being an actor, and that's it. That's it. And being a cat mom. Okay. So when I heard this when I was really young, it really stuck with me. And this story haunted me. So for so long, I just thought, well, if that's true and I'm only supposed to do one thing, like, how am I supposed to do one thing? Like, I know I love doing this one thing, but I'm also really good at this other thing too, you know? I mean, for God's sakes, like, I am a professional actress and I am becoming a professional therapist. You can do two things at once. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. But I didn't know that. And that was a story that was lodged in my head from someone who said it on the fly, who had no idea it would stay stuck with me all the way till now that I'm telling you the story. Stories can also look like things that we have created in ourselves, that things that we tell ourselves, especially with like body image. This is pretty common. We look at actors and actresses, and we look at models, and we look at influencers and celebrities and think, I'm supposed to look like that, but I don't look anything like that. And then if you take it in a negative context, a negative story, we start to tell ourselves, we're just not good enough. We'll never look like that. Or let me starve myself. Let me work out too much. Let me A, B, and C to try to be something that I'm never going to be, most likely. Sometimes maybe you could be if you have the same body type and all of the things align. I mean, perhaps, but we are who we are. We're all born the person that we are. And what we need to focus on, of course, this is how you would reframe a story. We need to focus on what works for us, not the story in our head of, I need to be a size 2 because I think that actress is beautiful and I want to look like her. So I need to be a size 2 because she's a size 2. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's literally saying, I want to fit into her body with mine. I want my body to be like her body. And that's impossible because she's the only one and you're the only one. So when we reframe a story, we want to be nice to that little voice because that voice is really just a part of ourselves that is wounded, that is trying to somehow help in its own little way. And usually it's a child, it's an inner child voice that's coming up. So you want to talk very nicely to this voice and be like, hey, I hear you when you're telling me that you would like to look like her. And ask it questions. Why do you want to look like her? What would that do at the end of the day? And listen to what they say, and they'll give you answers. So what technique I'm using is actually therapy. It's a modality called internal family systems. It's also called parts theory. And the theory is that we have all these different parts of ourselves, but we have a couple of them that are very specific. And one's like a firefighter, and we have different roles for these parts. So when we have a story, it's being told to us by a part of ourselves that believes that's true. Now, when we have the conversation with that part of ourselves to hopefully dislodge that negative thought, we have to be kind and gentle and patient. And we've got to let them speak because all that voice is doing, all that part is doing, is just trying to keep you safe on some weird level. It's like, well, if you're beautiful, then you'll be loved, and then you'll find someone, and then people will adore you. But that's not true either, right? But we think it is because that story has been running for so long. If I X, Y, and Z, I will be loved. If I actually feel like I want to bring this up. People who are masking who they are not doing themselves any favors, and in fact are doing themselves such a huge disservice. And we all mask at certain times and at certain points, and there's a spectrum of it, right? But if you're masking who you are, you're never going to truly be loved for who you are because you are a unique person who has unique, awesome things about them. But you can't pretend to be something you're not. So when you have a negative thought that's telling you something that you know is not true, and the thought is like, hey, if you start masking right now, they'll accept you. What if you could reframe it instead to say, what if I was just myself? My little weirdo self. And they didn't accept me, and that's okay. Because I know people who get me will accept me. And that is what I want. I don't need to be loved by everyone. I just need to be loved by the people who get me. But in order to be got, you have to be honest with who you are. We all have flaws, and we are all not perfect. And we are all trying to be our best authentic selves, right? We hear that a lot. I say that. But we're still just human. And we're going to have weird days, and we're going to have things about ourselves that could be weird to other people, but that's just us. So when we're trying to reframe a story, and I try to just give that as an example, the physical aspect of it, the image aspect of it, because a lot of us deal with this, we have to just give ourselves some patience and grace to let it integrate. But you are truly trying to come from your parent self, right? Not your actual parents, but yourself as a parent to your beautiful little inner child who is nervous and scared and trying to have all these horrible negative stories like stick. We want to come to this child and be loving to them and listen to them, ask them the questions, and then start to have like a little conversation of, well, that model is 5'11", and I don't know. What do they weigh? Like 130 pounds or something. And you are 5'2", and, not that weight. And you're not built like her. Maybe we can work on loving our body for what it is and just being more healthy if that's what we need to do. Maybe we just start incorporating more healthy foods into our life or doing more exercise that makes us feel good, like joining a sports team or taking walks. Getting ourselves into a more physically happy mental place, right? Instead of, I need to look like that person. So you reframe it and then you start having this conversation with your inner child and you work on it together. It's not an overnight fix. Nothing in therapy is really overnight. It's really just understanding that this is going to come up over and over and over again. I think there's a confusion with, oh, well, if I go to therapy, then I'm going to be fine after a while. And you know what? Yes, you're actually going to be great. But that doesn't mean you won't get triggered. You'll just be able to deal with your triggers faster and more effectively and more healthy. That's how we do it. That's how we keep learning. So the next time that you have a negative thought come up, I want you to honor that the thought is coming up because it's coming up for a reason. It wants to help you or save you or make you better, make your all authentic self. And then I want you to start asking it some questions. Why? Why is this better? What about that makes you feel like it'll make us happier? Tell me. And see what it says and write it down. So fascinating to write stuff down as it's happening, or type it if it's faster. And really see where this old thought may have originated from, whether it's a person or an experience or a circumstance. Again, it could just be someone said one thing to you one time and it just stuck. And then start having the conversation of could this be different? And you know what? It probably can be. Okay, guys, that is our podcast for this week. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week.